Welcome to the Science for the Public lecture series. Science for the Public is an organization committed to bringing science information and issues to the general public. Visit our website for our program listings and blog. Dr. Gong Chen is currently the Carl Richard Soderberg Professor of Power Engineering at MIT. He obtained his PhD from UC Berkeley in 1993, and he was a faculty member at Duke University and then UCLA before joining MIT in 2001. Professor Chen is a leading force in the field of nanoscale energy. He serves as the director of Solid-State Solar Thermal Energy Conversion Center, a DOE Energy Frontier Research Center. He's published extensively in the field of nanoscale energy transport and conversion and nanoscale heat transfer. And he co-founded a very big energy company, GMZ Energy. Dr. Chen has received many awards, among them the National Science Foundation Young Investigator Award, the American Society of Mechanical Engineers Heat Transfer Memorial Award, the R&D 100 Award, and MIT's McDonald Award for Excellence in Mentoring and Advising. Dr. Chen is a fellow of the American Association for the Advancement of Science and several other prestigious science organizations. He's also the chair of the American Society of Mechanical Engineers and serves as editor for several professional publications. It's a very big honor to welcome Professor Chen and to hear from him, one of today's foremost innovators in energy technology. Welcome, Dr. Chen.
Thank you.
And we're very pleased to have you here with us in downtown Belmont.
It's a great pleasure to be here.
Okay. You're accustomed to high-level audiences, I take it. And
I'm used to speak to the professionals in my same field, but it's also really great pleasure to have an opportunity to speak here.
You have that opportunity now, and the public will appreciate it. Thank you very much. There's been quite a bit written about your innovation, and I wonder if you could explain to us a little bit about solar energy. For example, one of the best popular articles in The Economist called it the third way, and it talks about the three means of developing solar energy. And this one, why was this one, the third way and likely to take over everything else? Why it sort of didn't get started right away, and so on. But if you'll explain that to us and your innovation. Thank you.
Thank you. So probably I could start from the energy scale. And if we think about the currently the whole worldwide energy consumption, that's about the 13 terawatts. That's a huge number. And by 2050, the anticipation this number will be doubling. So we'll get to, we need another 12 to 15 terawatts. And it's a big challenge. To give an example, typical power plant is about 2 gigawatts, 1 to 2 gigawatts. So what I know is in China alone, they will build about 100 power plants. Oh, so that's about 100 gigawatts a year.
Yeah.
And now we need to another terawatt, which is 1 terawatt is 10 to 12 watts. So 1 terawatt is 1,000 gigawatts. So that's the scale, it's the challenge we're facing. And of course, the other challenge we're facing is as we burn more fossil fuels, the coal, we have, say, the global warming problem.
Right.
And so the challenge is how we can use renewables. Now, if we actually take a look at how much energy really we have from the sun, And the solar energy is about 1,000 watt per meter square. And now the energy reaching the sun is about 10 to the 5th terawatts. So that's 100 terawatts. And that's a very large number. And 100,000, I'm sorry, is 100,000 terawatts. So if we can just take, let's say, 1% of that, that's already 100 terawatts. So clearly, the potential of solar energy is there. But there are also challenges. And currently, the way we're using the solar power, there are two ways. One is the photovoltaic cells.
Yes.
That's everybody is familiar. The other is we concentrate the solar energy and generate steam, and that's the solar thermal mechanical. So we use the steam drive a steam turbine, and both are used. And the major challenge is how one can bring the cost down. Because say ordinary people, they will look at how much they pay monthly to the electric grids, which supplies energy by mostly burning coals or natural gas. And the other is if we are renewable, whether it's cost competitive or not. And it turns out right now, the typical installed solar photovoltaic cells is about $3 per watt. And what does 1 watt mean? Is 1 watt per year, average speaking, may generate about 2 kilowatt hours. Now, if you take your electric bill and take a look and say how much you use, and you find about 1 kilowatt hour is about 10 cents. And really in the power plant it's 5 cents. After the transmission and the utility, I once checked, here we see about 15 to 20 cents kilowatt hour. So now the 1 watt of solar you put on the roof, photovoltaic cell put on the roof, is about $3. Okay, and then you can see now if every watt of this per year is about 2 kilowatt hour, and that's about 20 cents. And if it takes $3 to install 1 watt, and that will take like 15 years to pay it back, right? So that's a very long time horizon, and that's why this clean energy technology it's slow in permeating into the household because the price is most important. And so what we developed is a way not using the photovoltaic,
Right.
not using the big steam turbine, which is the solar thermal, the current. We are developing something that can be used, say, using this so-called thermoelectric principle. And the thermoelectric principle is, those are, I'll pass this around. You can see this is actually a commercial device. This device, if the current way to use it is you pass a current, you actually create a cooling one side, the other side heat. So you can use it for small refrigerators and even in some of the car seats. And on the other hand, if you apply a temperature difference, you can generate power. I'll actually show, and you can take a look at this.
Yes.
So what I have here is a bigger device like that, and I sandwich it between a piece of copper and a piece of aluminum. So it's it's about a millimeter thick. And when we light the fire and create a temperature difference, if I can open it.
Yeah.
And you'll see we should be able to power up. So actually, this is a relatively slow process as this side heats up.
Okay.
And you should look for the LED to light up. And like I said, it will be a relatively slow process. And later on, I'll explain this is actually an advantage. So that's the thermoelectric effect is when you have a temperature difference across typically semiconductor material, you can generate a voltage.
Okay.
And currently, people use that for sensing, measuring temperature, for example. But there are very few terrestrial application to generate power. And what we're developing is better materials so that the power generation is more efficient, and also looking into the, say, developing better applications.
I see.
Yeah.
Does this take a lot of heat to make it produce?
So
is that been?
Yes. So this is related to the efficiency.
Yes.
Right. So you can see it takes some time to heat up, but also now there's no fire, and it takes some time to cool down. It turns out this is actually a really interesting feature because when we have, say, if we do solar, when the clouds come, in a typical photovoltaic, your electricity will be gone. And in the case of heat, we can actually store this heat and so delay that power fluctuation, which is crucial for the power lines. You were asking the question. Can you repeat that again?
That one of the difficulties with the thermoelectric, they've been able to use it, I understand,
right.
With, say, cars produce enough heat. I forget what it
right.
is. It's 300C or something or other, whatever the heat is. But it's hard to get that concentrated out of solar. So this adjusts for that. This solves that problem, but I'm not sure how.
Right. So the challenge when we think about using thermoelectric for solar is how we can create a temperature difference.
Yes.
And if I put the device I was showing you, or this piece of device, under the sun, I cannot create let's say 100 or 200 degree temperature difference. Right. Probably there's a best 1 degree temperature difference, right? So this is a heat engine, so the efficiency will be larger if I have larger temperature difference across the device. Okay. And this is when we benefited from the existing solar hot water technology. And the solar hot water technology is a really interesting technology. And I am bringing here a solar hot water tube. And this tube is widely used in China, in Europe, in Middle East. And what it is actually a vacuum inside. And you can see the front surface, when it faces the sun, it looks black. And this is actually similar to some photovoltaic cells. And this surface the black is a coating on the copper piece. So, and in the center is a water channel here. So inside is a vacuum. When the sun comes to the surface, is absorbed, and the heat, there's no way to go. Of course, you will have some re-radiation, so the surface is very important to do the surface well, so to minimize the heat by re-radiation. Right. But there's no air inside, so the heat is forced to go through the copper laterally into the central copper. That's what they call we can call this a thermal concentration, right? They really laterally force the heat to flow from a larger surface to a small area. And this is, like I said, widely used, and the efficiency of this from solar heat to the household heat is about 60 to 70%. So it's actually, from a heat perspective, is very efficient. And so we, this is widely deployed, I said. I give example, in China alone, they have 120 million square meter, So that means it's a cheap technology, right? If you have this deployed in China, India, developing country, you know it's cheap. So this is a good example where people are using solar energy and making, say, changing daily life. And I know this personally because I grew up in China, and when I was a kid, there was nothing like this. So you can't take a hot shower in the winter. But so it's life-changing. And so we benefited from this, and we say, okay, now I'm going to take the material. Can I have that piece back? Right? So there are about, say, 120 pairs, 120 legs. So I have a lot of those legs.
Okay.
And because of a lot of those material, I cannot create a large temperature difference. So what I'm doing in this solar thermoelectric generator is I still have this absorber as already in hot water, and then I put say on the whole area, I only have 6 pairs. In this area, I have more than say 120 legs, so it's about 60 pairs. Here, I only have 6 pairs. So this will lift the absorber about a millimeter above. So now heat is forced to flow through a much smaller area of this leg. And because of that, I can create a 200-degree temperature difference between this absorber and this copper tube. And then say this leg, these 2 legs, like I said, the whole area is about 6 pairs, the generator. So the beauty of this is I use a very small amount of material, and I generate electricity, and the rest of the heat I'm going through to the household for the hot water. So now I have a system that I can provide hot water and electricity at the same time.
But it sounds like almost like a little thought experiment, that it was just a clever idea. Why? It's very clever.
So it was it's actually many years of research. First, we work a lot on these materials, how we can make materials better, and so you can see if I want to create a temperature difference, I want this material to be a heat insulator. Right, so otherwise the heat leaks from this side to the other side. And yet I want this material to be a good electric conductor, because I'm generate current, I don't want to have resistance there. And so this requirement of a good thermal heat insulator, and yet at the same time is a good heat, electrical conductor, are very difficult.
Yes.
And this is where we started using this nanotechnology, where the material itself doesn't look nano, but what we do is we crush those materials into nanoparticles, and then we recompact them into the same material that you're seeing.
I see.
So in the process, we create a lot of interfaces in the material. And this interface reflect heat, because heat is essentially sound waves, very high frequency sound waves. And so we know you can go into a cave when you hear this reflection. So that's the same principle. When we have a lot of interface in this material, we make the material more heat insulating. And of course, we have to watch out so that we don't ruin the charge, the electrical conduction. So that's how we're using nanotechnology to improve the materials.
It's very clever. That's very.
Thank
But
you.
you said it took a lot of years to get there. It sounds so elegant and straightforward, but.
That's the nature of research.
Right.
Sometimes after many years, you say, I should have taken that way many years ago.
But we're relieved to know that it took a while.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right.
Almost never, seldom we have an idea that will work
The
when
first
you go to the
time.
lab. Yeah.
The first time.
Right.
Okay. And you have other things to tell us with you had some slides about the process or something?
Yeah, so what I thought would be, you asked the question, the efficiency, right?
Yes.
And why we say we cannot get a very high efficiency. So first, we all drive cars, and it turns out the automobile efficiency is less than 20%.
Yes.
That's amazing, right? So the power plant efficiency is about 40%. Better ones could get to even 45, and if you combine with gas turbine, you can even get 60%. So, but see, the theory say we should be able to get to 80, even 90%. Fundamentally, we cannot convert all heat into work or electricity. That's the second law of thermodynamics, right? And what it really says, I know that my son in high school, they learned this sort of concept as entropy, right? Entropy is a randomness. So heat has randomness inside. And when you take a heat from, let's say, a combustion chamber, and you try to drive a turbine, or piston, and that's work, right? The mechanical motion or electrical is work. Work cannot carry randomness. So that randomness has to go somewhere. That's why we have to reject some of the heat to the ambient. And this is so this randomness, if you do well, you don't create more randomness. But in the car, we know there's a friction, or this other things. This friction creates more randomness. So we have less efficiency, and we have to reject more heat to the ambient. So the difficulty in converting heat into useful work, or electricity, or mechanical work, is how to minimize the generation of additional randomness. And so that's in general. And now say, what's the difficulty with the photovoltaic? Photovoltaic, take a silicon as an example. Silicon, is a semiconductor. So the sun energy comes in, it actually came from Einstein many years ago, that the light is also a particle, right? So what the solar energy comes, you can think of this, we call them photons, and they have different wavelengths, all right? We say different color. Different color means different energy. So each of those photon as a particle that has certain energy. And when heats a photovoltaic silicon, and if the energy of this photon is less than this semiconductor, by name semiconductor is semi-conducting, right? So what it has is a band gap. It's a gap, energy gap. So if the photon energy is less than this gap, you cannot lift the electron from a lower energy to the higher energy, because the photon energy is not enough. And so if we just think about that, in the case of silicon, the solar energy comes in, there about 25% of that energy cannot use, because those photons do not have enough energy to lift the electron from across this gap. Okay. And the other difficulty is some of the energy of the photon is too high. And so this is the gap I say, okay, that's the energy. Now, if the energy of this photon is higher than this gap, what happens is the excess energy, let's say this is the excess energy, right. They quickly convert into heat. So you don't have a chance to take them out as electricity, they already convert into heat. Right. So that again counts for another about 30%, no, actually 90% of this excess energy is gone. And so if you do, say 70 times 90, it's about 50%, right? And now you have a charge here. You have another, say, left behind the opening that's what we call hole. You got the electron, you got a hole, and you try to take them out. But each of them also have randomness. You cannot take all of that out. Right. So you get another about, say, 70%. So all of together you multiply, you get at the best case in the silicon, you can convert 30% of the solar energy into electricity. That's what the theory says. And in fact, people have done pretty well. They can do 25, 26% in the lab. Right. In the field, it's deployed as only 15 to 18% because the manufacturing and also really the cost. Right. You don't want to make it too complicated and the cost is too high.
Exactly. So it's really a challenge developing this kind of energy, although there's so much of it.
Right.
Capturing it and utilizing it is another thing altogether. Yeah. But now you have the solution. So
I would like to emphasize this is providing alternative. At this stage, we're actually not saying we're going to replace the other technology. Right. What we're hoping is, for example, when we combine with hot water, we have a much better solution than just provide household hot water.
Right, right.
It's actually also interesting you mentioned the energy density, right? Because this is another important problem. If we think about 1 kilogram of gasoline, right? 1 kilogram of gasoline has about 45 megajoule of energy. Okay. And so if I put a 1 meter of silicon photovoltaic cell on the roof for 1 year, that's equivalent to 2 tanks of gas. Like each tank 15 gallons. Right. So this is the gasoline. That's why all those fossil fuel people like it. Yeah. Because it's convenient, right? It's high energy density. Right. The solar energy is clean, but you have to have a large area. And so at the end, you have to have low cost to cover the large area to get that adoption. Right. Yeah.
But a lot of people like you are working on technologies to really improve this. And it sounds as though you've got something here which can capture a great deal. It's definitely something that will be more widespread, I'm sure. Did you have some material you wanted to show us about some information you wanted to show us about how this all works?
Do you mean the
on your slides?
On the slides.
Yes. No, it's fine.
Okay. Yeah. So I actually have the slide. So this was essentially what I was saying, that when we try to convert take heat to work, we cannot convert all heat into work, right? That's because the heat carries some randomness. That's the entropy. And if you generate entropy friction, you have to actually reject the more entropy to the cold side. Yeah. And this entropy is heat. Entropy times temperature is heat. So that's why you have to reject some heat to the ambient. You can never convert 100% heat into work. So the maximum is, this is a so-called calor limit. The maximum efficiency you can get is, say, the temperature of the cold divided by temperature of hot, 1 molostat. So The larger is the temperature difference, the higher is the efficiency.
So if you got this above 300, if you got it above 300, you'd increase the efficiency more.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is the limit there. And currently, all the energy heat to electricity conversion is below that limit. You see,
way below.
the best is the power plant, it's about 45%, right? And photovoltaic is actually a wide range. You can say from organic solar cell people developing to silicon single junction is about 30%, and then people put a lot of semiconductor. I said silicon is this is the minimum energy, but if you put a different semiconductor with a different gap, then you can stack them. This form the so-called multi-junction cell, and there people actually have reached about 41%. So that's very impressive. The problem is the cost is everything, because as ordinary people, when we install it, we look at how much it costs us.
Absolutely.
Right? So that's the. So this is what I was explaining, the efficiency. That's what I say. A photon comes in, it generates, lift the electron from here to here across the gap. But if the excess energy, they have to dump quickly.
Right.
You can't. We don't have technology to capture that excess yet.
Right.
And so essentially, this part of the solar spectrum is lost, and even we're only using this red part, even though there are a lot of energy there, and that's why I say you quickly get to about 30%. Right. A typical solar cell, that's the limit.
Right. What would be your guess for, if you had the very best technology, you have a sense of the trend in this and the capability down the line. What do you think would be the maximum potential?
This is actually history. Different photovoltaic technology.
Much of it at MIT.
A lot of it at MIT, but also really this is worldwide. Okay. In fact, in photovoltaic, some of the records come from like Australia. They have a long time investment. But see, what's interesting is I said this is a DOE goal, Department of Energy goal. And this is a year, in 2004, it cost $8 to install 1 watt of photovoltaic cell. And now it's about $3, 10 years, right? And what DOE really wanted to say, if we want to be competitive against the coal combustion or the fossil fuels, we need to get $1 per install watt. So there is still a factor of 3 to go, and you have to do it fast. So that's the.
But it's coming down fast.
It's coming down fast, and I was at a DOE meeting and met a solar installer, and what they say, it takes him 25 cents to just get the paperwork done. You see, get all the permits, get all the. So now, if you want to drop to $1,
exactly, you got to add some of these other things.
All the labor, all the racking. So this system is actually including both. You see here, the solar cell, including a photovoltaic module itself, and then including installation, the racking, the steel.
Yes, sure.
And so. That's very challenging.
Exactly, I understand. But already in some countries in Europe, for instance, which certainly can't have better sun than we have, except in Spain, which has really developed a lot of solar. But they've actually, people are able to sell back to the grid, right? It's put them in, and so that investment up front is already paying back maybe earlier than they thought. Is that true in your mind?
Yeah, that's particularly in Germany. Right?
Yes.
So Germany is not just exactly like what you said, not better than us in the sun. but they have very good government policy incentive.
Yes.
They call this is a feed-in tariff. So the farmers actually make money,
Yes.
install this, they sell to the grid, and they don't use their own. They get the cheap electricity from grid, they generate electricity from the solar, and they make a profit out of it.
Yes, there's a way of thinking.
Yeah, the benefit is that create jobs.
Yes.
They create technology,
Yes.
that create jobs.
Right.
So unfortunately, in U.S. we don't have
The mentality.
that policy, right? So
Right.
it is the much tougher job to create this industry and to sustain it. And that's
Yes.
why a few weeks ago you heard the startup like Sonindra,
Yes.
right? They took a lot of the government loan at the end, and they went bankrupt.
Yes,
Yeah.
but that's probably going to happen somewhere anyway. But the policies in some of these countries has been to subsidize the industry. I believe that Massachusetts was subsidizing people who would take on at least the solar panels or something. But it may need to be a partnership, perhaps. But one of the things I'd like to ask about this is, it seems as though it makes a very localized power, electrical and heat power. And that means that if you know some of the blackouts that have occurred in this country, these are catastrophic. So you think of New York going dark, this is not fun, and it can happen. So, and we buy a lot of electricity from Canada and so on. Well, if you had this kind of a setup, and I'm not sure, but it sounds as though your house and that you could be quite independent. So if somebody goes dark, there's somebody else right around the corner that can help. You don't have a shutdown of hospitals and everything else. Is that the case? Is that a possibility down the line, that this would be self-contained?
This is really, you had a very shrewd observation, and in fact, that's the promise of a lot of those distributed generation systems, from photovoltaic to thermoelectric.
Yes.
And what could potentially lead to is the distributed power. And but there are also technical challenges that needs to be solved. One is the smart grid. So there are a lot of countries, including US, are developing smart grid. So by that it's probably at this stage it's very hard just to say you're completely off grid.
Yes.
So what they need is an electric grid that can handle this you generate power, and I generate power,
right.
And in fact the U.S. Current grid can take some of this, but you cannot take too much. So if you got everybody is generating, and this could actually create a problem to the current grid.
A different kind of a
right.
blackout. Is that it? That we're
but,
firing it back.
That's why you need the research in that.
Yeah,
the
right.
other is, if you completely off grid, then you need a good storage. And because the electricity you generate is during daytime, and in household you use the mostly during nighttime. And so you need to store that electricity. Of course, the battery is a solution,
yes.
but the cost is very high. So you have to work on reducing the cost of energy storage.
Right. Do you see this as a trend in any case? Now, you're presenting logical problems here, but of course that's the case with all technologies, right, as they get started. And then, 10 years, that because of the acceleration of the technologies themselves, then the cost would go down. Some of these problems might be solved, but then the benefits might be enormous. But do you see this as simply the way things are going to go anyway in the future? It's inevitable, or are we up against the fossil fuels?
This is a really very interesting question, and I was not here in the 70s, but some people may remember in the 70s, right, at this energy crisis.
Yes.
And there were, say, a lot of research in photovoltaic and in the renewable energy. But unfortunately, when the energy crisis was gone, the research investment was gone. So what I want to point out is, I think in the long run, this is definitely the solution, right? Because we eventually will burn out the fossil resources. But how long that take, we don't know. And what really is the major driver now for energy is the climate change.
Yes.
Because we have to reduce the CO2 emission. And what's needed is the long-term policy towards research, energy research. If you compare U.S. and Japan, and Japan has about a quarter of their R&D budget in energy research. We probably have 1 or 2% of the R&D budget, and just very, very low.
It's been cut back, hasn't it?
Yeah. So of course, the recent years we saw surge in energy research, but that's yesterday I was in talk given by Steve Koonin. He is the Undersecretary DOE, and the dollar amount overall is still very small.
Yes.
And also the danger is the long term, right? So the energy is actually the improvement in efficiency is pretty slow.
Yeah.
And you have to have sustained investment in the energy research. It's a much larger barrier than, let's say, internet technology.
Yes,
going
I
into the
understand.
market.
Right.
A few years ago, I was talking to a lot of VCs. I said, you know what, I'm worried because at the time VC putting all the money in the photovoltaic, I said, I'm worried about 5 years later whether you'll still be putting money into it. And that's the current situation, because the reality is it's very hard for the green energy company to be profitable. And so you need a long-term, have a long-term investment view there.
On the other hand, these countries, you mentioned China, it's a huge population. Certainly a number of Asian countries, Japan, Korea, and so on, they don't have any resources, so that they'd be very encouraged to take the leap to make this long-term investment. And in Europe, there seems to be an inclination that way too, although Spain has, I don't know what their thing is, but they have a lot of sun, and they've done the solar justice for sure.
Right.
But the incentive seems to be there elsewhere. As if I follow it correctly, in all developed nations, all the leading economies, we're still the shy ones. But what would it take to get us moving in the right direction here? And I'd like to add to that we need, I think the public is probably increasingly aware of the importance of the R&D, that it has to be extended, or else people get lopped off right in the middle of a process that may take a number of years, and labs cannot shut down in the middle of this. You really lose everything. Right. So what would it take to get us to this point? Do we have to simply run out of oil?
So that's a very important questions, and I think there are many factors. One is, as a technologist, I view my responsibility is in the innovation, technology innovations, so advanced basic science and advanced technology. But also energy is such a complicated problem, and it is essentially is a commodity. Right, energy commodity is the lowest wins, lowest price wins. So here we really need, the government policy. Yeah. And as an ordinary citizen, I think if everybody is given pressure, right, because we're a democratic society, and if
it's our
we
money.
have enough, if we have enough voice, the politicians listen.
Exactly.
And the challenge, of course, is that, for example, I come from China. I know them very well. And the local government, in fact, not necessarily the central government. In China, the local government has very strong competition. So they want to have their local industry, right? So they compete and they put in money, and those companies grew very fast. The solar company is industry in China is a great example. A few years back, I had somebody in my lab, and he was telling me the richest person in China is a photovoltaic.
There you go.
I said, how could that be possible? I didn't even know China had a photovoltaic industry. Just that 10 years,
right?
Now they became dominant because those government incentives helped a lot.
Exactly.
And that creates jobs.
That's the other part. It creates jobs, and it's good of you to mention that, because it's booming jobs in the whole industry just generally. So there is a huge promise in all of this. I wish you the absolute best with your wonderful innovation here, and I would recommend to the audience, you go to our website. I've listed a number of articles that are for us, for general readers, and describes this innovation very nicely. I'm so glad he brought it with him. I thought, just that big, and that we could do all of that. But I know that you have questions you'd like to ask. We did not set up a microphone. No matter what we do with mics, it never works. So I will ask Dr. Chen to please, and you should feel entirely relaxed about this, but I'll ask him to repeat the question, and then I will type it on the screen when I do the edits so that you can see it. But if we could do that, if you would not mind repeating the question, then I can hear it, then I can type it, and then you can see it. And I will turn it over then for questions and answers. Dr. Chen, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you.
And please just go right ahead. I think he can see you if you raise your hand.
I see Maria.
I have a question. If these long solar collectors are so inexpensive and used widely in India and China and the Middle East, as you explained, why are we not using them here? They're cheap, right?
Yeah. So
here is cost.
Absolutely. So this is a puzzle I have too, and I asked it wrong because in China, this solar hot water system, a family installed is about $300. So that's it's about only here is about $4,000 installed. And I think there are several issues. One issue I was told is because this is a vacuum system, so it could break. So if in China it breaks, they just put somebody else to replace the tube. And here it breaks, you get a lawsuit. So that you need a lot more expensive. Make this say this will cost more. Say increase the cost. Secondly, is the installation. There's not a working force that very proficient in installation. The startup we have, GMZ Energy, when we tried to install a solar hot water system, it took workers a few days. And in China, it's just a few hours, because
why is there such a difference? People here can't learn.
No, because it's an industry that's not there, right? So you need to have the business opportunity. Then you have more people get trained. So I guess. It takes time. I just don't know when the U.S. You were permitted. I was in fact also talking to. I remember I was talking a big glass industry. I said, why don't you do it? And they said, we can't make money. It's too cheap.
Where can we buy these?
Go to China. We could.
I actually locally there are. There is a company. I can send me email. I can give you the name of the company.
Yes, I'll make sure if he doesn't mind, I'll put his email address. Well, actually, it's probably on the website anyway.
Yeah.
But that's a wonderful idea. And then we can have some citizens that will simply raise their voices a little more. I think this is probably right. This is what needs to be done, that the voice of the people has to be heard a little more forcefully, because we don't know what we could have. We just are not aware of it. We have a few minutes left here to take a few more questions, then I'll have to stop, but then you can talk to him some more. I just need to stop the tape at that point. Go ahead. I'll repeat his question if you would.
Yes.
Well, since you said the greater the heat difference, the more energy you generate.
Right.
Has any thought been given to focusing the glass?
Yeah.
Oh.
So the question is, say, if the larger is the temperature difference, then you can focus and create a higher temperature. That's an excellent question. And as the first step, what we consider is how we can be cost effective. Because the current focusing system, you need a tracking. You need a, say, mechanical, you need a big frame to do tracking, and that increases the cost. So we saw that this one is just a planar. So in fact, we do this by heat conduction. So the thermal focus, this focus is about 200 times. Well, optical trough in the power plant there is typically 60 times. Mm-hmm. So the beauty of this way doing it is we have a flat panel and we use very little material because we still focus, right? It's just a lot of optical focus. But having said that, it actually, see, we have model and we're thinking whether there's the reality will be favorable if we do focus. We haven't reached the conclusion yet, so that's part of the research we're still working on. Thank you. Yeah, I would like to.
Would it also work if it got colder? So like if you put it in like the freezer, would it like also give off power?
Absolutely. Excellent question.
Could you repeat it?
So the question is, will it also work if you have, if the other side get colder, right? And for example, put into a freezer. So the principle of thermoelectrics is anytime you have a temperature difference, you can generate power. Of course, say you don't want to put it inside your refrigerator because you put a lot of electricity into a refrigerator to make that cold. But there are applications that we actually have been thinking. For example, in say this liquefied natural gas, right? That's cold, and you can think about whether you can recover some of the energy that's say used to make that cold. So excellent question. I saw the other.
Is there any written information that's available to us on this?
Can you repeat it?
Is there any written information on this? Yes, we do. We have publications, and in fact, I'll give a copy of the slides. Yes. And if you need more information, send me an email. I'll be happy to provide.
Right. Okay. That it? All right. Dr. Chen, thank you so much for visiting with us. I really appreciate it. You can talk to him again a little more informally.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Very nice.